Adorama TV presents Getting the Shot with Corey Rich.
Hi, I'm Corey Rich, and you're watching Adorama TV. In this episode of Getting the Shot, I'm going to talk about basic DSLR audio. Now, this is a three-part series. This is the basic scenario. We're going to talk through really the fundamentals of recording sound using your DSLR camera. We'll also do an intermediate segment, which gets into more of the equipment, and then a third segment where I bring an audio recordist, a professional, onto the show, and we're really going to talk through kind of taking audio to that next level. Really, the goal when recording sound with your camera is to try to capture high-quality sound, whether that's natural sound or whether it's people talking or voices. What you want to avoid is video clips that look and sound like this. What that is you screwed up. Something didn't work in your setup, right? And we've all had that happen. You thought you were recording a great interview. You thought you were recording some great voices. You thought you were recording some great natural sound, and it turned out something went wrong. One of the first things that you want to think about when recording sound with your camera, if that's your recording device, is you want to aim that microphone, your recording device, at the sounds you're most interested in capturing, the source of those natural sounds. In this case, in the 3 episodes, I'm working with Zach, one of my good buddies, a rock climber here in Tahoe, California. And Zach is going to be playing with the climbing equipment, racking it up to go climbing. There's all kinds of cool sounds. It's aluminum hitting aluminum, carabiners opening and closing, the rope getting coiled, rope getting pulled through his hands. So I'm going to point my microphone at Zach's equipment to capture that natural sound. Now, the inverse is also true. You do not want to point your microphone or your recording device at the sounds you do not want to capture. There's a lot of parallels between sound and visuals. If there was a road behind us, I'm not going to put Zach in the foreground, point my camera at his face for the interview or the gear to capture that sound, but have the road in the background with the cars zooming by. The reason is very similar to the visual. I don't want the cars in the background in the shot, and I don't want that sound in my audio file. Wind is also a huge issue when you're recording sound. The best thing that you can do when trying to record in a windy environment is have the wind blowing over the top of the microphone rather than into the microphone. So again, this applies to Zach. I'm trying to capture this natural sound of Zach racking up climbing equipment, prepping to go rock climbing, and let's pretend it's windy. I'm not going to have Zach standing in front of me, the wind blowing over Zach's back and into my microphone. Instead, I'm going to flip the situation around ideally and record the wind blowing over my shoulder, past the microphone, and then I'm still capturing the sound of the gear rather than the sound of the wind. Now, depending on your camera, you have 2 modes that you can operate in. One is an automatic mode. Much like automatic exposure in video or still photography, the camera will do the best job it can to decide what the level will be for the audio. If you're using the automatic mode when recording sound with your camera, it's very similar to automatic exposure with the camera. In the sound front, it's the same. If the sounds are very loud, it tries to, using gain, bring the audio level down. If it's very quiet, the camera does its best to bring that audio level up. But much like auto exposure, it's not perfect all the time. During those fluctuations of sound, oftentimes the camera, you'll catch it, you'll hear it, trying to compensate imperfectly for those changes in sound. So the advantage to recording in manual mode is you can prevent your audio file from clipping on the high end, and you can control your sound floor. In general, it's much like shooting a photo or a video clip. You'd rather have slightly underexposed files than overexposed files. It's very difficult to save the overexposed files or clipping audio files. But if the sound floor is lower, your exposure is slightly under, you can probably save that in the aftermath. Now, a lot of DSLR cameras today also have a headphone jack. So beyond just the visual representation of whether or not your camera is actually recording sound and whether it's in the white, the yellow, or the red, you can also have your headphones in your ears while you're shooting, and you can actually be monitoring that sound. On most cameras, if there's a headphone jack, there's an independent control for the input level of the microphone or the sound that you're recording and the output level of how loud or the volume of the sound that you're hearing in the headphones. If you're trying to record great sound, you need to be conscientious of the way that you're handling your camera or putting that camera on a tripod or a monopod, and roll for durations of time where you're not manipulating the camera. If you're finding that you want more directional sound than what your camera has to offer, there's actually two ways to solve this problem. One is to kind of think outside of the box and accept the fact that sometimes you're going to record sound that you're not attaching to the actual video clip that you're shooting simultaneously. So by this I mean, if I'm doing a wide shot of Zach climbing on the cliff or prepping his gear, and I'm 50 feet away from Zach, the built-in microphone on my camera is not doing a good job at recording the sound of Zach prepping his gear. But I can record that visual first, and I might even say to the camera, I'll do a voice memo to the camera, note, I'll say this audio is going to later be synced, or I'm going to add better natural sound of Zach racking up his gear. I end that clip, I walk closer to Zach so that my camera is right on top of Zach. Maybe it's even the wrong focal length lens, maybe it's out of focus, but now I'm focused on using that onboard mic right on top of Zach to capture the better sound of him racking up the gear. And later I'll combine that great visual with this better sound. Now the other way to do this is you can add on a mic to your camera. I'm a Nikon user. I can add the Nikon ME1, which is a little shotgun mic that fits into the hot shoe on top of the camera. This is a more directional shotgun microphone that allows me to be slightly farther from my subject, but also record more directional sound than the built-in microphone on the camera. There's a beautiful world out there when it comes to recording sound. People have amazing things to say. There are wonderful sounds all around us. Take the time to hone your skills, learn how to use the equipment that you have at your disposal, and I promise you, you'll be creating much more compelling videos. Thanks for listening. You're watching Adorama TV. Educational content just like this gets published on a regular basis. It's free. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do. Thanks for listening. I'm Corey Rich. Come back next time for segment 2, which is intermediate DSLR audio recording.
Do you want great-looking prints at low cost? Be sure to visit our easy-to-use online printing service. Adorama Pics has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use AdoramaPics.com.